AEW Dynamite started off red hot with MJF versus Will Ospreay for the International Championship. This match arguably could be debated for the best match of the year because this match was picture perfect. Everything was just amazing. This was great. I was very caught off guard because I did not expect the match to go as long as it did. I did not know that they was going to fight for an hour. I was not expecting that. It was kind of catching me off guard. But this match was amazing. This match was great. This was very good from the moment it started. Early on, you had MJF being the heel, constantly playing mind games on Will Ospreay. You know, he ended up doing his little dance early on in the match, but then Will Ospreay ends up coming back, doing the dance right back, mimicking MJF. Then later on in the match, we got Will Ospreay playing a leg, and I think he played a shoulder injury too, or arm injury as well. He's playing a leg and an arm injury in the match, which of course MJF constantly attacking the leg and arm injury. We had some amazing 6 spots in this match. Both of them just going back and forth, was doing some crazy 6 spots, man. I remember there was one spot where Will Ospreay ended up going for MJF towards the end of the match ended up going off the top rope onto the table, onto the outside, landing on Will Ospreay. We had another spot where MJF was trying to go for like some type of power driver or some sort, and then Will Ospreay ends up reversing that power driver into like a stunner, and then ends up doing the cutter for the pin. MJF ends up kicking out. Then we get Will Ospreay, MJF both on a ring apron going back and forth. Will Ospreay ends up trying to go for a ring apron cutter. He tries to go for a cutter on a ring apron. MJF moves out the way, and then Will Ospreay lands on his arm, which leads to the arm injury, which leads to MJF dominating for a little bit of the match, constantly attacking the arm. But of course, you know, Will Ospreay having the odds stacked against him ends up making the comeback. Then we get a moment where Will Ospreay did this crazy like F5 into like a power. It was very sick. He did like a I don't know what the move is, but it was basically kind of like an F5 into like a blue thunder bomb, which is very confusing the way I'm wording it, but like that's what it looked like to me. It looked like a mix of like the F5 and the blue thunder bomb combined. It was very sick what he did. He ends up pulling that crazy power bomb off, goes to the pin, MJF kicks out. Then later on, after MJF kicks out, they end up going to the outside, and then they just start fighting in the outside, fighting in the crowd. Then I think after they stopped fighting in the crowd, they ended up coming back, fighting on the outside. Then Will Ospreay ended up doing a cutter on the barricade. Well, MJF ends up throwing Will Ospreay into the barricade, try to throw him into the barricade, but Will Ospreay ends up hopping on the barricade, jumping off the barricade into a cutter onto the outside, which I thought was very sick. Then shortly after, it was a moment where Will Ospreay can't put MJF away, and then he ends up going to the ring apron again, and then he ends up doing a stop. They was going back and forth, if I'm not mistaken. Will Ospreay, MJF was going back and forth, reversing each other's power drivers. Both was trying to do the power driver on the ring apron, with Ospreay getting the advantage, and he ends up doing a Styles Clash on the ring apron, which I thought was sick. That was very sick. This match was just everything you wanted it to be, especially for an hour. This match was amazing. The constant kickouts. Now, I would say the kickouts was a little overboard. I ain't gonna lie, because the amount of kickouts was in this match was crazy, but you kind of needed that for the match being this long. But man, the amount of kickouts in this match was a little exhausting. I was kind of getting annoyed, but to be fair, that was my fault for not being prepared for this match being that long, because I thought this match would be like 20-30 minutes with no winner, with it being just them running out of time. Then we get towards the end of the match where Will Ospreay about to do the Tiger Driver, but he refused to do it because of the commitment he made after his match with Bryan Danielson. He doesn't do the move, and then MJF takes advantage and ends up pushing Will Ospreay into the referee. And then he ends up having the diamond ring. He has the diamond ring, but at the time I knew he had the diamond ring once he did what he did, but you couldn't see it based on the camera angle. Will Ospreay tries to go towards MJF, and he ends up punching Will Ospreay, knocking him straight cold, goes for the pin. The timer on the clock, it's like 5 to 4 seconds left. The ref counts, and it was like 2 seconds left in the match, and the ref count to 3, and MJF is now your new international champion. That was amazing. The ending was perfect, and plus they did it perfectly. I love that MJF won, mainly because if you're gonna have Will Ospreay play a leg and an arm injury, you needed him to lose. There's no reason for Will Ospreay to win a match against MJF, arguably your number one guy in the company, I'm assuming, with having 2 injuries. Because people who watch this channel know that I hate when babyfaces win matches when they're playing an injury angle against other top heels in a match. I think it's stupid that they win that way, because it's like, if you're playing an injury, you should not be winning. I'm sorry, you should not be winning as a babyface when you're injured, especially against another top heel. Against lower level heels, that's fine, but against top heels, you should not be winning. The way it ended was perfect. Him cheating, him using the diamond ring, this was amazing. I especially can't wait if they end up running a rematch at All In, which I'm assuming, because that should be epic as well. But this was great. This was perfect. The way it ended was amazing. After the match, you just have MJF just laying on Will Ospreay, just laying on top of him, just laying there. Neither opponent is moving. They had to get medical assistance from them to even help them up. You had MJF in like a breathing thing, the breathing thing they use, to help people breathe. They ended up putting one of those on him because he was just completely not. This was a great match. This was amazing. This was arguably the best match of the year. This was perfect. After this, we ended up getting a segment with Mark Briscoe and Acclaim, and Acclaim basically ended up making their case that they should be in the match for Blood and Guts against the Elite. Then Swerve comes in and basically welcomes them to the team. So it will be the Acclaim, Mark Briscoe, and Swerve in the match in Blood and Guts. And then later on, we end up finding out their fifth member, who eventually ends up being Darby Allin, who I ended up predicting. Well, I think all of us could have predicted that. But yeah, it's going to be Swerve, Mark Briscoe, the Acclaim, and Darby Allin versus the Elite at Blood and Guts. That should be an interesting match. Next, we get the Learning Tree. Get the Learning Tree, TV time with the Learning Tree. I'm going to skip a lot of this because, man, this promo was just so bad. Chris Jericho doing his typical stick. But then get Suzuka. I think that's his name, Suzuka. He ended up having like a segment last week towards the build-up towards Chris Jericho, Big Bill. I forgot the other member. I think Jack Cobbs was his name. And facing Samoa Joe, Hook, and Shibata. The build-up towards that match at Double or Nothing. Forbidden Door. I don't know why I forgot the paper at Forbidden Door. Suzuka had like a segment where he wanted to fight Chris Jericho for his FTW championship. He comes out with a little paper. He ends up giving it to Chris Jericho, and it announced that it's going to be him, Chris Jericho, for the FTW championship, and Big Bill and Brian Keith are banned from ringside. I forgot what it is. I think it's at All In, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think it's at All In. No, it's at Blood and Guts. At Blood and Guts, they will have a match. If I'm not mistaken. Blood and Guts, they will have a one-on-one match for the FTW Championship. Chris Jericho is going to win, and we all know Big Bill and Brian Keith are probably going to interfere in that match. I don't really care for the match, to be honest with you, because we all know the end goal is probably Hook getting that championship back, or Samoa Joe. But yeah, we all know Chris Jericho is winning that match. Now, next, we get a quick segment with the Young Bucks and the Elite and Okada and Mercedes, where basically they was talking, laughing it up. And then you get Mercedes. Okada asks Mercedes to do the dance that she does. She does the dance, and then she leaves. And then Okada is like sweating. Like, he's sweating after she does the dance. And I'm just like, why? Like, now, don't get me wrong. I understand the joke. But I feel like if they was going to do a joke like this, like, couldn't she, like, she could have been more sexual. I'm like, why are you sweating for her doing that weak dance? I don't get, like, it'd be different if she did like the little twerk that she does when she goes up to the ring. That is something to sweat for. I could understand that, but just her doing that dance, it's like, come on, really? And she was fully clothed. It's not like she was wearing her ring. Well, she was wearing her ring gear, but she had like a coat over it. So it's like, I just felt like it was just dumb in my opinion. But then after this, you get Mercedes versus Nyla. Mercedes wins. We already knew she was gonna win. But then after the match, she goes to a fan. And the fan is wearing a mask, and she has a poster, and the poster says DMD is greater than CEO. She takes the poster and rips it, and she's talking trash to the fan, and then the fan ends up pushing her on the ground. Revealed, and is Dr. Britt Baker. Britt Baker tries to attack Mercedes, but security ends up breaking them apart, and that's the end of the segment. I love what they did there. The feud itself, I'm not gonna say it's the most interesting, but it's building slowly, but it's getting more and more interesting. Most likely Mercedes will pick up the victory there. But I am somewhat excited for the feud. Britt Baker has been a long time since she's been on TV, and she's doing great work with this feud, and I'm somewhat excited for the match though. I can't wait to see how it plays out. Next, we get Mariah May. This is something I'm not gonna talk too long about because I felt like this promo was kind of lackluster. She basically, now one thing I did like is that she came out dressed as Toni Storm, which I thought was amazing. I thought it was amazing that she dressed up as Toni Storm. She comes out and she kind of didn't say anything. She basically comes out and ends up saying that we all knew that eventually I was going to turn on her. She ends up saying that how she had fun and how basically this was the plan from the start. She ends up mentioning how she still has love for Tony, but she ends up taking advantage of the opportunity and basically ends up saying that she's going to win at Wembley. That's basically it. She didn't really say anything she didn't really go that in depth, in my opinion. And she was kind of, the way she was talking in this promo too was kind of throwing me off guard, but she was pretending to be like Tony Storm, so that's why. But I like the idea, but I feel like the execution could have been better. I'm not going to talk too much because I was kind of disappointed by this segment, if I'm being honest. The main event, Swerve versus Okada. This match ends up getting interrupted by the Young Bucks, who attack Swerve, which leads to a disqualification. But then you end up getting the Acclaim. They come out to help Swerve, so the Acclaim and the Young Bucks start fighting. Then you get Jack Perry, who ends up making it a numbers game, helping the Elite, of course. Then you get I think Mark Briscoe even the odds. Then we get a moment where the Elite have the upper hand. Then out of nowhere, Swerve Strickland ends up doing a house call onto Jack Perry, because I think Jack Perry ended up doing like a DDT on Mark Briscoe. Then Swerve is the only person standing in the ring. Then you get Hangman Adam Page. He comes out, he's standing on the ring apron. Then Okada pulls Swerve Strickland and everyone starts to brawl. Then you get Darby Allin theme music starts to play. It's taking a while for him to come out. Then he comes down, he falls down from the sky, similar to how Sting comes down from the Raptors. He comes down from the sky, and then everyone starts brawling, and that's the end of the segment there. So Darby Allin officially is officially going to be in the match in Blood and Guts. I can't wait to see how this plays out. This episode of Dynamite was really good, mainly because of MJF versus Will Ospreay. But this was a solid episode overall. This was great. You guys let me know your opinions down below. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. But yeah, that's it.